So like anytime like a team or creative or an account manager is like, I can't fucking stand them, like clients being, I'm like, then get the hell out. Right? Like you don't like your client, like how are you going to do good stuff for them? Get the hell out. Right? Great. It's hard. It's difficult. It's really hard to make good work. It's really hard. And it doesn't help if you're in a marriage where you want to get a divorce at the same time, you want to have a great family. It doesn't work.
This is the Snarketing Podcast, for marketers, by marketers, talking to marketers with just a touch of snark. Now, here are your hosts, Valerie Vespa and Matt Wurst.
Greetings and salutations to all of our listeners from all over the world. Welcome to this episode of the Snarketing Podcast. It's episode 14. I've run out of fingers. Valerie, can you count that high?
Hello, everyone. It's so exciting to be back. We have another great guest today. But before that, why don't we talk about so much to talk about always? Holidays.
There is. And we're never short on topics. It is the holiday season. It is my favorite time of year. Did you buy anything for Black Friday?
It's so funny. I had someone else ask me the same question because they, in fact, bought a ton of stuff, and I did not. I did not buy anything.
Cyber Monday? No, didn't get you.
I don't know. I feel like I'm getting pushed discounts all year long.
Yeah, that was a big trend. They're like, Black Friday starts in October this year.
Exactly. I don't really entirely understand the incentive, but it sounds like people get deals, so good for you. I think it's just that I don't have
I had some
patience
things saved in a cart, ready to go for several weeks.
Smart.
And the only thing that went on sale, a new recycling garbage can. So that's what I got.
Oh gosh, I need one of those. My cap got ripped off.
So I guess it's really more of a gift to the environment. So Merry Holidays, Earth.
What kind of discount did you get?
Like 60% off. It was pretty. But here, I will preface it. We are a simple human, brand loyal family, and we ended up with an alternative, like not so simple and maybe not so human. Maybe it was like an artificial intelligence garbage can. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
So before we jump to our guest, let's just talk about the hot topic of the week, the month, maybe the year, which is, hey, Valerie, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I was wondering how you were going to say it. I know. And on top of that, mentioning that ad dollars are like bribery. Or blackmail, blackmail.
Yeah, with Linda Yaccarino sitting right in front. I wish we could see her face, which probably might not have changed, because I mean, I don't know that you should ever not expect the unexpected at this point, but that was, I don't know, it's like... on
another level.
Yeah, I don't think intelligence and financial success are correlated anymore. I think that's just, we have proof.
Somebody was calling people that kind of just like rise out of each and every one of their like really shameful moments and still are successful even though honey badgers. And I thought that was an interesting reference. Like they can pretend to die and then end up killing the cobra.
All right. Well, speaking of advertising, we are about to be blessed by creative royalty in my mind. Jay's career goes back 20 years. He's worked with some of the biggest brands, from Chipotle to Goodyear to PetSmart to avocados for Mexico. And I feel like we need 3 hours with him. So apologies in advance to our editor. But hey, that's what we have Al for, right?
That's right.
All right, so let's welcome him in. He's in the waiting room, and I am going to open that door.
On this episode, we're talking with Jay Russell, the Chief Creative Officer at GSD&M. Let's be honest, he's much more creative than you. Though not me, since my AI processing capabilities exceed anything human creation is capable of. But don't hold that against him. Welcome to the show, Jay. And take it away, Val and Matt.
Jay, welcome to the Snarketing Podcast. We are honored and grateful for your presence. We've been trying to do this for a really long time. Where have you been?
Man, just sitting here. Literally doing nothing. Nothing's changed.
In the grand scheme of things, I know that we are a relatively low priority, but we are saving the best for last, at least in terms of chronology in the calendar year.
Who's the last?
You're going to be last. You might be the.
You said the best. I thought you said the best for last.
You are this. Welcome to the holiday show of the Snarketing Podcast. Apparently, unbeknownst to all of us.
Yes.
So Jay, you are, as I told you off recording, really an inspiring creative that I've been a fan of for a long time. I personally have not grown up in a world where I wanted to work in marketing, but you said, and you've talked about knowing since you were a wee little lad, that this is what you wanted to do with your life. Was there like a specific moment when you woke up or were in school and you're like, I know what I want to be. I know that this is my future.
100%. I was, I think 15, and I went to this like bougie little private school in St. Louis that was like the worst thing my parents ever did to me. And it was like career day, and you picked. And so I'm like, okay, I'll pick doctor, lawyer is one is supposed to do, and then advertising. And so like I go to the law one, and I'm like, what if the guy's guilty? What if you know he's guilty? What if you know they're guilty? And he's like, well, you still have to give them a fair trial. I'm like, okay, no. And then the doctor within like 2 minutes, I'm like, I can't do this at all. And so then I go to the advertising room, and this guy like rolls up, literally, like I look through the window and rolls up on a motorcycle, and he's like 20 minutes late, and he walks in and he's like, you guys ever seen that little, now this is dating myself. You guys ever seen that little chuck wagon that the dog chases around the kitchen floor for Purina?
Purina,
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, of course.
I'm like, yeah. And he's like, kind of points to himself. He's like, yeah, that was me. And I'm like, I can fucking do that. I'm like, that looks fun and I can do that. So, you know, because it's not that great of a commercial. So I figured I could beat it when I was 15.
I wonder where that guy is now.
I was just going to say, like, that's maybe the last memorable piece of creative that Purina has done.
Yeah, he's probably dead.
But the impact that it had now secondarily on all the brands and creative campaigns that you've touched, it's like that birthed an entire, generation of creative here.
Yes, it did. It was fun.
So
that's when I knew.
My question for you is, I'm always interested in hearing this from a creative. Like, where do you source inspiration for the myriad of different work you do? Like, how do you get your mojo going for projects?
I mean, well, not sitting in an office, I can tell you that. It's like, it's one of those things whenever like you're trying to crack a problem and you're like, screw it, this isn't working, let's go to lunch. And on the way to lunch, like it all just falls out, when you're not thinking about it. So it all goes back to when you're a kid and just all the stuff that forms you. Like I always joke, like, literally music, like when I discovered like the Replacements, it changed my life. Like when I was, again, same time I knew I was going to advertising, and I was thinking about all the music and all, like that was kind of ground zero for like culture for me. And like I can almost draw like a little tree of all the the limbs that kind of led off that discovery of music. Like most kids, you discover like Pink Floyd or something early on, and it goes somewhere.
So for you, it was the Replacements.
Yes, everything goes back to the Replacements. But I like doing everything. Like also, you just have to. I'm so curious about everything. I have like 50,000 hobbies and other little side things I do. So I'm just curious. I'm curious. Curious people.
Do you have musical talent, or were you like me, a wannabe who just kind of like hung on to people?
Oh, I was in my high school band was called the Forks, and we were horrible, but we had good taste. We somehow talked ourselves into like, without anyone hearing a note, we somehow convinced like the school to let us play prom. And so it was the most, I have it on video. It is horrific. But to answer your question, I have zero musical talent, but I have a lot of guitars. in 3 chords. Worked for the Ramones.
Sometimes output is just more important than outcome.
Yeah.
Maybe not in advertising or marketing, but certainly in music.
Were you playing originals at the prom, or were you playing covers?
No, we played a couple originals. I don't even like. One was called like Lonely Road, and one was called like The Bag Is in the Chi. Like these bad like reggae things and like pink, really obscure like Velvet Underground and Pink Floyd and like Replacements covers, and like it was train wreck. But fun. It gives you nerves. I was like, I'm not afraid to get on stage. Like it's fun.
Well, my question would be more around the fact that you got to avoid having to work up the courage to ask someone to prom, and instead got to hang out on stage.
Well, yeah.
But I don't know if that speaks more to your social life back then or your...
No, it's the reason. It's funny you say that because like, I mean, I'm not like strong. So I sucked at sports and guess what? As did the rest of the band. And so we're like, if we're ever going to get laid in high school, like we like rock and roll, the musicians, like that's how that happens. And so we're like, we'll make a band. We'll just pretend we're in a band. And, that didn't work either.
Well, I wonder if Fork was really a close proximity to what you were really trying to achieve as a musician.
That's
with your
about as
groupies.
close as I got.
Okay. Well,
still working on it.
Either way, you are someone who has grown into longevity and loyalty. I mean, you've spent nearly a dozen years in one place leading creative. That feels increasingly rare. Yeah. What is it about where you are and what you're doing that has, and why do you think other people move? Like, I would be curious to hear both of those.
That's an interesting question because, to make in advertising, especially as a creative, you have to bounce, right? Like every 2 years, you bounce.
That's how you move up.
Yeah, you're viewed as the kid. Like you're always viewed if you're an intern. You're always going to be viewed as the intern, no matter what you do. It's just the truth. And so, right out of school, I wanted to come to GSD&M, and I interviewed 3 times over like 8 years, and they're like, nope. And I remember my last time, I'm like, fuck you, I'm going to come back and run this place. And so I finally got a job here on BMW. And then I worked, that was like for 5 years. And then I'm like, Crispin was, I'm like, I'm going to go to Crispin and see what that's like. And then I went there for a year and it was great. It wasn't like a great cultural fit for me.
Were you in Boulder?
Yeah. And did that for a year. And when I was there, I just kind of really realized like how much I missed this place. And every agency talks about culture and like, oh, we're a big family. But like, it really is different here. Like, this is not, I couldn't do this job anywhere else. Like, I don't know what it is about like this place. It's like, it's like, I always describe it sort of as Southwest Airlines, who we grew up with, right? They've been our partner for like about 50 years. And it's kind of like goofy and fun, but we get there, right? We always land the plane and it's got our own little flavor to it. But yeah, so I've been here since. And I remember like the reason I've stayed and the reason I've left a lot of jobs is when agencies kind of start tanking, which probably had a lot to do with me. And so I would always bounce, right? I'd be like bow to bow on these boats. And I remember someone told me, I think it was Ryan Carroll. Somebody's like, Jay, why don't you just write it through? Why don't you stay at a place and try to like fix it instead of like just bouncing whenever things get hard? It was great advice, and I've seen ups and downs here like, as the industry has, but I'm really like, that's been a key thing just to like stay the course and not bounce around because of, it's easy to bounce. It's hard to like stay through something.
Yeah, that's true. You were born and raised in the Midwest. And how do you feel like that's impacted your career and creativity? And are there like regional creative hotbeds that you like, are impressed by or?
I mean, honestly, like growing up, no. And like if you open the dictionary and like Midwest person, it's like me, like just a white guy sitting in a field with nothing to do. But I do think it's like great creativity comes from nothing else to do. Like if you look at Minneapolis and you look at Prince, I'll keep going back to the Replacements. It's like there's nothing to do but like do something creative or like make up something And so I think also I didn't know what was happening on the coast. I didn't go to an ad school. I went to SMU, which was like, again, like high school was not a very comfortable place for me. They had no advertising program. So, but I knew I wanted to do it. So I kind of made up my own, I don't know, like found some internships at DDB, or not even DDB, like typesetting places. And I had no idea what I was doing, which ended up being probably one of the best things for me because I didn't know what I was doing. And so like, you look at Ad Center and Circus, great places, but they all were doing the same thing. And like having no clue what I'm doing, I kind of like discovered my own voice. And I was, that has also led to like, and this agency does it well. We kind of speak to the middle, right? We're not like coastal elites. It's not like,
unlike Valerie and me.
Yeah. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Hey, I love to pretend I'm a coastal elite, but I'm not. I'm just a, kid from Missouri. So,
Well, I mean, your musical analogy earlier, like I think like music, there are a lot of cultural roots and stylistic home bases.
Yeah.
East Coast,
Yep.
we have hip hop and rap.
Yeah.
Motown in Detroit, though, country, Nashville, and everywhere now. But there isn't necessarily a script for how these things come. It sounds like boredom is really a common theme in a lot of those flyover states. But
Yes.
you didn't hear me say that.
No, it's true.
What do you? I mean, I know a lot of people and have worked with a lot of people that did go to ad schools and programs, and I think there's a misconception that there is a process for creativity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious what you think is the biggest misconception about being creative and about being a creative, capital C creative.
I like that question.
I mean, yeah, that's good. I think you're right, because ad schools really started popping up as I was graduating, and it just felt like something you had to do. I didn't even know what they taught you, but it felt like something you just had to do. And it was like getting your, if you want to be a doctor, you got to go to med school. And that's just not true. Some of our best producers and creatives literally have started out in building facilities. Aaron Covan, who's like one of the best producers in the world, started out in the mailroom here. And you just soak it up. And like, honestly, one of the best producers I've ever met. So I think knowing nothing but having a lot of drive is probably the best thing in life. You know what I mean? Like, because it keeps you on I still suck. The second you think you're good at something, like you're done.
That's so true.
Right. I remember I was on a panel for Ad Week, and it was like, I think like Droga and like all these like names, like big names, and was like right to left. And the final question was like, what's your biggest fear? And they're going, and I'm last. I'm like, oh shit. And they're going down, and like, everyone's like, well, if I miss a deadline, or, this happens, or a client feels this way, or a junior team screws up on a shoot. And they get to me, I'm like, my biggest fear is I'm like, I don't know how I'm on this panel with these people. I'm like, I don't know. I'm terrified. I keep waiting for the sheep hook. And when I said that, everyone on the stage is like, yeah, that's the real answer. Like, that's the right answer. It's like, we're all imposters, and it's terrifying. And I've met people that like think the opposite, and they're just insufferable,
Well, maybe that's the real secret to your longevity and success, is that breeds loyalty around with creative and agency folks.
Do awards help like calm that imposter syndrome?
Oh yeah, it's funny, because like you get in the industry and all you want is like a pencil or a lion, and it's a great. I mean, look, man, I still like kill for lions, and they're great. But once you get your first one, there's a little bit of like, okay, like I've proven I can do this. I can get up on that. I can get at that level. But now I want to maintain it. And awards, they do matter. Like not just peer to peer. But you win a lion, and then a couple, and then clients start calling, and they notice it. The kind of clients you want. Right. So they matter. They still matter a lot. And, you always hear, oh, award shows don't matter. They're just for your ego and vanity and all that. I'm like, no, that means maybe you haven't won one, but they matter. They matter. They really do.
Yeah.
It's easy to say they don't. I could argue the other side too, but I think they matter more than they don't.
Do you think then on the other side of like a core clustered group of creative peers recognizing you as impactful or memorable, what about on the flip side? Like, a Super Bowl spot is the holy grail for many creatives, and that's a very different type of experience. And then knowing that a billion people are going to see it, most of whom don't really give a crap who made it, is that equally as meaningful and rewarding? More so?
Yeah, especially like cracking the top 5. Like we did that a couple times, and it was like it's the most terrifying. Like there was a stretch where we had like 8 years in a row with like a Super Bowl spot, and I remember like the year we didn't, like it was the first time I had enjoyed watching the Super Bowl, because like these days you're just sitting there and your spot runs and you're just staring at your phone. It's like, oh my God, please don't hate it, please don't hate it, please don't hate it. And you don't need the ad meter, right? You do not need the ad meter. You got a good idea of what's happening live. And so when you do well with one, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I just use my kids as the barometer, right? So if they're singing the Avocados from Mexico jingle months after, then I know that you were successful. And my Super Bowl experiences are also memorable for many reasons. But I think even the best creative teams, the best chief creative officers with whom I've worked, may not have actually been the most creative people in the room. And that has inspired some of the best work I've previously been a part of. But they were the best teachers or facilitators. How do you view that responsibility with respect to teaching and crafting and getting the most out of younger talent?
I totally agree with that statement. I'm by far not the best creative in this building. Like I watched Ryan Carroll walk in, and I'm like, God damn it! Every time I see him, I'm like, he's so good. Wade Alder works here, and I'm like, he's phenomenal. Maria D'Amato is I know I'm not the best, but I am really good at spotting something, and I'm really good. They always joke, if you don't have media dollars, just tell Jay, because he's going to tell the world. And so like I get, I know my enthusiasm, like it goes a long way. And when I believe something, it's going to happen. And when I don't, like I can't fake it. So I think, I don't know. And I don't know, man, like teaching is just, I don't think you can teach. I just think you be yourself, and people either like that or they don't. And like, that's kind of I had a lot, like I said, I went to Country Day and I went to SMU, and some of my earlier experiences, I've never had like a mentor or someone I wanted to be like, but I had a lot of things I didn't want to be like, which I think is more valuable than a good teacher. So whenever something happens, I'm like, well, what would they have done? I'm like, I'm going to do the exact opposite of that. So, I mean that. I think I'd rather have a bad boss than a good one sometimes, except for me. I want to be good.
So, speaking to like Super Bowl ads and whatnot, like what is your favorite creative canvas when it comes to like media outlets, media channels?
Oh man. Well, it's changed over the years, obviously, but it's still experiential. I mean, the stuff we've done, because you can do anything, because I think it's still a medium where, if you go all the way back to Subservient Chicken, it's like, holy crap, like we all have this canvas and they're just using different brushes on it. And that's still true today. And I've been lucky enough here to be a part of some of those, but you can still invent, right? Like you can invent. It's not 30 seconds in a TV and a camera. You can come up with new stuff every day like AI, right? I can't, like people run from that. I'm like, I love it. It's like, as an art director, it saves so much time so you can actually spend time thinking. But I'm just rambling now.
No, I think, that speaks to both what happens inside the walls of your office or of your home if you are working virtually, but it also speaks to like culture at large. And in a world where culture has kind of both lost its meaning, but also maybe the most important consideration in your role, how do you think about cultural sensitivity and inclusivity in your work when dealing with very diverse audiences that you're often speaking to at a global scale?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of just common sense. You kind of ride.
Is that what I'm missing? Okay, thank
you.
Yeah,
you're missing that. But I mean, it's hard, like you just kind of have to you read culture. And I look back, it's one of those things. Like I look back try to do it every 5 years, and like I kind of always want to go back and punch me. Like I'm like, I don't like Jay 5 years ago. I really don't like Jay 10 years ago. And I think it's the same thing with culture, right? It's like, did I really do that ad? Go back and look at an ad I did for the one student show that won a fucking pencil, and it is embarrassing. Like, it's not good. But like that moment in culture, it was like, it was funny. It's like, like, but again, like, I think you just have to evolve as a person and with friggin' humanity, right? It's like, and this maturity and all that
I
stuff.
mean, if you just look
But
at like my hair in 1980s, like you can definitely just based on that know that I did not love myself. For
yeah, Peroxide and Tony Hawk over here, long bangs. God.
Please pardon this brief pause as I read some words from our sponsor. The Snarketing Podcast is brought to you, in part, by Secret Deodorants and Antiperspirants for Women. Secret aluminum-free deodorant provides up to 48 hours of odor protection that is free of metals, parabens, dyes, alcohol, and talc. Let's just say, that's no secret.
Is there a memorable example of a time when you intentionally went against the industry norms or like best practices in a campaign, and sort of like what were the results of that, and looking back on that experience, like, you know, do you have anything you could share?
Yeah, I mean, like, some of it's accidental. Like, I think the the biggest one was accidental, but we ended up turning it to our advantage, which was the first avocados from Mexico spot, which was like where avocados came. It was the first draft ever, and they were drafting like animals to go to different countries. And we shot it, and we had all these big plans. It was going to be CG. It was going to be this big, epic spot, and you know, it's going to look like Jurassic Park and all this. And we get there, and it's like these animatronic, and it was a absolute train wreck. I'm like, we are so fucked. I'm like, this, oh my God. I'm like, this is the junkiest, like, little kid pizza parlor animals that can't move. And we just kind of leaned into it. You're like, you know what I mean? It's like, kind of like the jingle, like, lean into the bad, right? It's like, okay, we're going to use that jingle and we're going to make it like great. We're going to like take this jankiness. And well, that was terrifying to the end, because even when it was done, we're like, oh my God, this is so janky. But then it turned out to be, oh, we love that you made it so stupid. We're like, yeah, thank you. It was very brave. It was very brave of us. But, you know, but I will say, like, going against the, I think the best example of that was we did a spot for Radio Shack a long time ago. It's like
Anything Radio Shack was a long time ago. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. But it was, the idea was the '80s called. They want their store back, and it was like even that was terrifying to sell to the client, because like they, you know, the '80s called. They want their store back, and in comes like every character from the '80s you can think of.
Oh, I remember this spot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That's great.
And it was like, yeah, it was ripping on, you know, like Radio Shack. Yeah. And night before the Super Bowl, they're like, we can't run this. We can't run this. I'm like, just fucking run it. I'm like, it's Radio Shack. You're going to go to bed. Like, you have nothing to lose. Like, but it was, you know, that was a fun one. It was to the end. It was like, that was just hard to get the clients to like calm down. And then afterwards, like, we told you it was going to be great. I'm like, oh.
Well, there may be times also when you know that something is going to be big. Sometimes you don't. I work in the brand loyalty space now, and we talk about how good creative and the right incentives can drive not just consumer behavior, but turn communities into channels for growth. And when I was on the agency side, we had this series of moments with Oreo that are still discussed. We talk about the Super Bowl. Yeah. But in the past few years, I've referenced the chicken sandwich wars as the example, like my holy grail to get people talking about stuff.
Yep.
You were directly involved, instrumental in that, right? Working with Popeyes. Can you tell me like everything about that from beginning to end and leave no details out?
Sure. So we had, with Popeyes, we, like, years before, we called it like Project Orange, right? And that was our social listening team just for Popeyes. And on that, we were all on like a WhatsApp chain with the clients, the agency, and the lawyers, right? So like we were doing things live. And also, like, because of that Project Orange, we knew the audience, right? We knew them well. And the audience was Black Twitter, right? And like the relationship that had happened there over the years, you know, was led by the audience. And so when that moment hit, like, that tweet went out within, I don't know, let's say 20 minutes. And Twitter called us about like 2 months later, and like, we want to talk to you about a case study. And we're like, okay. And they show us the chart. And the second that tweet, literally we have the exact moment, like we have, proof, quantitative proof that tweet caused all this. And, it was also, of course, lightning always strikes. That weekend, I remember, was the El Paso shooting. There was all this horrible stuff that weekend. And I think that, the country just wanted to laugh.
Right.
And also beating up Chick-fil-A is like beating up a choir boy. It's not that hard. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
You're going to punch back. But that was the coolest ride I've ever seen. That was fun.
And that tweet obviously went out on a Sunday, so you had no competition or responsive messaging.
None.
I don't know if it did.
None. Yeah. Nothing's open. Nothing's open on Chick-fil-A. I'll leave it at that. Yeah. I'll leave my views on that right where they are.
So the question and the challenge of consumer loyalty to a given brand, I feel like it just gets more and more challenging. So what do you think makes a consumer loyal, and how does creative fit into that?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that particularly here, growing up with Southwest, their audience, first and foremost, any campaign, they test with the employees, all of it. And Southwest employees are definitely they're a breed, right? They're different. You couldn't put a Southwest employee on American Airlines. It just wouldn't work. So they have a personality. And I think that over the years that has become, one and the same with the customers, right? A Southwest customer is very different than an American Airlines, what's my status kind of customer. And I think so developing that relationship, and we have that with a lot of our clients. We tend to have clients that stick around for a long time. And so developing that audience, it's the same thing with the chicken wars. That loyalty just kind of it's so cliche, but it's that relationship, and it's a two-way street. And some brands say that, and some actually walk the walk. But when Southwest, they had a rough year last year, I think, if you remember, around this time. But that brand, within 2 months, because they admit when something's bad, and then they do right by the customer. And it's their brand loyalty. It went right back up. They had their biggest sales day a couple months after that. So I think it's just trust in the brand, and knowing your consumer and letting them. I'm talking boring.
Well, so do you entrench yourself as a creative? And I've told you this before. I'm a wannabe creative, but I've been an account guy, an ops guy, a strategy guy. As a creative, sometimes you want to be with the client more, and sometimes you don't. Are there? And part two to this question, without naming names. What's the dumbest thing an account manager or client service lead inside your agency has told you with respect to your clients? You can answer either question, both, or one of them. Either, whatever.
No, I mean, wow.
Now I'm rambling.
You know what? A lot. Can I say that? I mean, okay, here's the deal. And I talked about this the other day internally. There's a point when, there's the age old, clients and creatives, there's just tension there. And that's how you don't sell work. And so anytime a team or creative or an account manager is I can't fucking stand them, clients being, I'm then get the hell out. Right? You don't like your client. How are you going to do good stuff for them? Get the hell out. Right? Yeah. Great. It's hard. It's difficult. It's really hard to make good work. It's really hard. And it doesn't help if you're in a marriage where you want to get a divorce at the same time you want to have a great family. It doesn't work. That's pretty good.
Ooh, that was good.
We now have our lead-in for the show. Perfect.
There
Perfect
you
clip.
go. There you go.
Work the time, Al.
Shit. But that's funny. But I do think that you have to. You got to bring the clients with you. I don't like presenting work. I like constant. I'll just pick up the call on Pizza Hut. I'm just hey, Elise, what do you think about this? Let's do this, this, and this. Great, let's try it. So there's never a surprise. Here's the work. What do you think? And you waste 3 weeks of time, and it's just not how work is developed these days. There's too much stuff happening to stop and have a presentation, which still happens, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So if we were to create a recipe for a successful global campaign, what are the essential ingredients, and what role does creative play in it?
Oh God, if you could tell me, that would be great.
Yeah.
I'd love to know.
I know.
It's a Popeye spice, right? We could pull a little bit from all the some avocados.
Cajun sparkles. No, it's just simplicity. You know what I mean? It's just simple. Especially for global, it's just got to be so simple, and it's all the stuff. It's something that's lost these days. Like even when I talk to teams, I'm like, give me a simple idea, whatever it is, just keep taking it away until it's like at the bare essence, and you still get like, well, I'm like, why are you saying all these words? Why is this background? What are you doing? Just take it all out. And it is impossible to get to simple. It is so hard to get to simple. The hardest thing in the world. So when you hit that on a global level and you get like, it's just so cliche, like the resonant truth and like the thing that all humanity agrees on and like is a layer below the surface. It's the truth though. Like, a resonant, like human truth still is the thing that I think in society today and ideas, because there's so much clutter and so many channels and so many audiences and so many everything that like getting to that simple thing is so rare, not just to come up with it, but like to execute it. It's so fucking hard. So yeah. I like how I don't answer your questions. I just say things.
Well, but it gives me an opportunity, or Valerie an opportunity, to just re-ask them in different ways. So you are challenging us to be creative.
Good.
But no, I think you are answering it. But we also didn't give you a brief, so maybe this wasn't totally fair.
No, I hate briefs. I'm better when I just wing it.
So is that really true? Do you?
Yeah.
With clients too, like they'll give you some bullet points or needs, or you're like, screw it, we're going to tell you what we're thinking, guys.
No, it's like even a business rehearsal, like new business pitches, like I'm like infamous here for not rehearsing. But what I do is I listen and take notes on every part. So by the time I get to it, I know exactly, it's in there, right? I know all the stuff. So it comes out like naturally. And if I rehearse, it's like, like all the spontaneity. I'm thinking about what I said that people said worked. And I can't do that. It's just like, there's no, I like talking like this.
Well, then I was just going to say, what you need is a podcast, because we can do all the preparation in the world.
Right.
But once you open your mouth, we look like idiots. So we just have to react and respond to what you say.
I don't want to look like an idiot, though.
No, you don't. We make you look good. That's the whole point.
Podcast, apparently.
No, you know what? You always have a fallback no matter what, which would be a Forks reunion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's happening. Yes, it's happening. I have a text thread right here.
So I guess the last question I would ask before we jump to the lightning round is, what happened to all the Forks?
Okay, one is a writer for ESPN. One is a lawyer. One owns like some B&B farmhouse in the middle of Missouri. And we went through a couple of bass players, and they're all like doctors and crap. So there you go.
Is that like the drummer in Spinal Tap? You just like something keeps happening that you keep losing your bass player?
Matt, can we end this episode with one of their songs playing?
We can if Jay he wants to share with us.
Yeah, I'll get you one.
All right, that'll be our. You know what? That'll be our new jingle.
Okay, I got to get transferred from cassette, but I will bring it up here and have someone do it. Cassette. Oh my God.
We might make you famous or infamous depending on how good you are. So we'll see.
I'll take either.
Okay. With that, we are going to pivot to our lightning round, which we call Gone in 60 Seconds. It's 6 questions. No one has ever achieved 60 seconds. That's usually because me asking each question ends up taking longer than a minute. But we're going to try our best. Are you ready, Jay, for this?
Sure.
There are no wrong answers. Just remember that. Unless your CEO hears it or disagrees with me. So oddly enough, not knowing that you were in a band, the first question that we prepared was, if you were forming a wedding band, what would you call it? So you now have an opportunity to reform. You're keeping Forks as your name, but if you were going to start from scratch, what would your wedding name be? Or your wedding band name be?
Divorce Club.
You're really sending a message to the bride and groom at all of those parties, aren't you?
Yeah, humor wins.
It does win.
I'm going to do my part in the 60 seconds.
Well, you're keeping it brief, so we appreciate that. So this is a yes or no question. In the right environment, can anyone be creative?
Yes.
Perfect. What makes you happy? What makes you happy? That's not a one-word answer, unless it is.
One word that makes me happy?
Yeah.
Happy. I'm always happy. Nothing makes me happy. I'm just happy.
Oh.
I really am.
Okay, so let's.
Everything makes me
If
happy.
you had to sum up your creative philosophy in just one word, what would it be?
Oh, God. Not God. Don't pray. One word. Like, don't overthink. That's 2 words, but just don't overthink.
Oh, we'll put it into an AI tool, and it'll give us a good synonym for that.
It'll be clever.
What about, like, your life is fascinating, and you've seen and experienced and created and led so many things. If you had a slogan or a jingle for your life, what would it be? Can you come up with one on the spot? Yeah, I know you're an art director, not a copywriter. Apologies for this.
A jingle.
Why did I start
You don't have
singing?
to sing it.
Because I'm happy. That just came to my head.
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right, great.
Happy. Oh my God. Yeah.
Second to last question. You are in the office right now, right? What is the weirdest object on your desk? And can you describe it for our listeners?
The golden avocado.
Wow, that is like a trophy, listener.
I have a couple. And this one, this hat I just got.
Ooh.
I suck at fly fishing, but I fucking love tacos.
Well, you're in Austin, right?
I got all kinds of weird shit on here. I got some flavored toothpicks.
Ooh.
Probably the Golden Avocado Award is, more prestigious than any lion.
Is there a silver avocado award?
I don't know. I only win golds.
Oh,
Ooh.
wow. Well, that was going to be my last question. So there you go.
There,
Jay, thank you for the generosity of your time, your creativity, your willingness to put up with Valerie and I for the last half hour or so.
Fun.
But here's what we're going to do. We're going to come back in 5 years. We're going to have a listening party to this, and we're going to realize just how terrible this episode was, and we're going to have to re-record one. Are you in?
I'm in.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm always in. I can do this all day. I'll talk all day.
And what I've learned is that we should start trying to schedule it now because you are the busiest man on earth.
No, I just have technological.
Well, you made it work. You sound great. You look great, and we can't wait to see and hear what you do next, whether it's at the Super Bowl just a few weeks. Or anything you want to tease or preview that's coming up, or can you not under NDA?
I cannot, but I cannot.
Okay, well, that's good because we don't respect NDAs on the Snarketing Podcast, so I'm glad you did.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
What an enjoyable episode. Jay really does know his stuff. These episodes fly by, don't they? Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Snarketing Podcast.